Well, this is an absolute honor. Ryan and Nathan Johnson here to talk about Wake Up Dead Man, the brand new Knives Out film coming to Netflix, and we're going to talk all about that, also the theatrical run for it as well. Honor to have both of you here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Kev. Thanks for having us, man.
This is crazy because Ryan and I have known each other, I think, since 2008 on the Brothers Bloom. We did a couple Q&As one night at Landmark East Street Cinema, which I think is now closed down. But
Is it?
but that was so long ago, and I bring that back up because the work you've both been doing together, obviously since you were kids, but obviously in the feature role with Brick going forward, I really want to highlight this process. And that's the whole reason I started a show like this, was to take a deeper dive into filmmaking craft and also the decisions that both of you make narratively to bring these stories to life. And you're two of the best artists working today, and that combination of being family has to be a really interesting aspect of it as well. But let's go back to like the beginning and maybe the first time each of you knew that movies were special. And I know that there's those pivotal moments. For me, it was Terminator 2 when I was 8 years old. There was something that clicked in my mind that I need to know how that was done. Yeah. How did James Cameron just make Robert Patrick rise out of the floor and become a copy of the security officer? And so what was that spark for each of you, the movie that kind of gave you that subconscious or conscious understanding of the power of films?
I have a feeling it's going to be the same movie.
Well, go ahead, because, I don't want to mess this up.
I mean, if I'm thinking all the way back, I feel like Star Wars was the thing that was just like, that imprinted so strongly on childhood.
Did you see it together?
I don't think so. I think we saw, like, I remember going over to your house when you guys had like
the VHS
tape.
You had to get on. We're a little older than you, Kevin.
I'm 41.
Yeah.
We're a little older than you.
Kid. Nice try, kid. That's adorable. You used to have to. Well, I don't know if you remember this. You used to have to get on a waiting list to get a movie like Star Wars at your local video store, and it would be like 4 months of waiting, and then you would get the tape for like 48 hours, and you would have all your friends over and you just watch it on a loop. And everyone had been doing this who got it, so the tape was like,
crinkly.
Yeah, very, very thinly worn. But I think I remember going to. It was probably one of. It probably wasn't like the first weekend. It was probably like a little re-release or something with my dad and seeing it in the theater. But,
I think I didn't see Star Wars in the theater. I think I saw it on VHS first, and then Empire was my first one in the theater.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I got to mention this. You guys are cousins, obviously. For people out there listening
who
might not know that information, but you obviously grew up together. When was the spark that you guys could work together? In the sense of, like, I know you were making movies together as kids, but there has to be a moment where you go to each other and go, hey, we both love movies. We both love the idea of what it means to make a film. Maybe we should work together. And you had other siblings and family that were part of this process as well that have actually bled into the work you're doing now. You're talking about other family members who worked on Brothers Bloom and going forward. So talk about like that spark for each of you.
I mean, I guess it. I mean, we did just grow up hanging out and making movies together. That's kind of what we did on our family vacations, as we would just use our poor siblings and younger cousins. We would just spend their entire vacation having them as extras in our movies. Basically.
Everyone was excited to be in it at the beginning. And then once they were in it, we're like, no, you're in now. You have to keep. You're already the lead now. You can't go play. You have to finish this.
But I mean, we started working together with Brick, and it was Nathan at that point had a band and was a musician and done 2 albums. Yeah, he'd done 2 albums at that point, and I really loved his music, and so it was just kind of just asking him. Yeah, it was an easy call.
Yeah, and the reason why I want to have this conversation today specifically around Knives Out in particular is music plays such a key to tone and also I don't want to use the word manipulating, but driving an audience in a direction where music can tease us in a way or trick us in a way, but also the way that happens in the writing as well. But music has that ability to do that as well, which is interesting. But I want to talk. We'll go back to Brick just for quickly because obviously that's the first film you both worked on from a feature perspective. 2005, 20 years ago was that film. It still holds up. It's one of the best films. I talk about it with my friends all the time. The way the dialogue is written in that film. There's a musicality to the way the cast speaks, obviously, with the detective aspect of the story, but it's such a brilliant film. Talk about that first experience working together, and is there a certain through line that has gone from Brick to now that is still consistent in the way you work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the consistent thing is that Nathan had been. I mean, is that it's not just like I get a cut of the movie done, I show it to my composer, he makes the music. The consistent thing has been our involvement is from the very start of it, the very beginning. I think. And also just I don't know, with Brick was very specific in terms of how you approach more of it.
Well, there's so I'll say this because I think there is this element that happened in Brick that does happen all the way going forward, but Brick essentially feels like we made it in our backyard. You know what I mean? I mean that Rian shot it at his high school. It was like shoestring budget. When it came time to do the music, Rian was editing the movie on his desktop computer in his apartment, in his bedroom. Yeah. And I recorded the whole thing with one microphone on a laptop in my apartment. I was living in England at the time.
Wow.
And it's so really limited budget, but kind of what that meant is instead of a string section, we used tuned wine glasses for like the pads. Instead of timpanis, we were hammering with mallets on the filing cabinet in my hallway. All the pianos from that movie, it was this old, slightly out of tune piano in my hallway that we tacked up. We tied strings onto it and had screws hanging on it. So it was sort of this element of like the restrictions kind of making something, I don't know, enabling
necessity
something.
Is the mother of invention.
Sort of, yeah. And but I remember also it's like also the first time we had done it, and there's this element of like, holy shit, I don't know how to do this. And I think that the more you do things, the easier it is to it's like uncomfortable not knowing how to do something, right? So it's very easy, the more comfortable you get to move that part out of your life. But I think it's like this weird thing about making something new if like sort of definitionally you don't know how to do it if you haven't done it before, right? If you feel like you know how to do it, that probably means you've done it before. And I think there is an element with all of these. I mean, we're not recording them in my bedroom. Ryan's not editing them in his bedroom, but there is an element of like each one feels like we don't quite know how to do it, and that's what I really love about it.
I mean, music is a character in a lot of films. It can be used in such a beautiful way where it's an atmospheric part of it. It could mix in with sound effects where you don't know what's in the world, what's not in the world. It's always interesting to kind of see how filmmakers play with music. Your dialogue, the way you write dialogue, there's a musicality to it. I've always felt that way. There's something beautiful and flowing about, like, there's arcs to the way people speak in your films. And it really goes down to the writing that you do as a screenwriter. Talk about the musicality of your writing mixed with the musicality of Nathan's music, and kind of when you first saw it cut together in Brick, what revelation did that bring to your writing? And I would imagine it elevates things in a way emotionally that maybe you can't get out in words, that they kind of beautifully blend together.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it, the emotional element that the music brings to it, and especially I don't know, Brick did have kind of like a junkyard symphony element to it, but that ended up really working for it. And I can't even remember what I like, if I temped Brick with anything. I probably did, but it wasn't until Nathan's score went in it that the movie actually started working. I mean, also because Brick and the Benoit Blanc mysteries are kind of similar to this, but Brick has a lot of logistics going. It has a lot of plot. It's got a lot of explaining, and so what that means is making sure both in the writing and also in the music that the emotional vibe is very, very clear, and that you want to try and get the backbone as simple as possible if you're going to have a lot of chatter going on over it.
But do you rely on the music in the sense of like like exposition is very interesting in filmmaking, and there's really good ways to do exposition. I remember seeing Terminator 2 before Terminator 1, and there's that scene where the doctor's explaining to the people who are visiting the hospital where Linda Hamilton is, the story of T1 as they're walking to her door.
Right.
I was like, that is a brilliant way to set up story that is necessary in the world. Exposition is something that's fascinating as a writer because you do need to explain, but you don't want to over-explain, and then you also don't want to. You want to subvert us in a way where we don't want to know where things are going. We don't want to figure out who the killer is right away. Is exposition something that you like early on in your career? I think you write it really well, and I'm wondering like if that was a conscious thing to go. Okay, I don't want to hand feed the audience. I want them to collaborate with me in a smart way as a filmmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I think writing stuff with a lot of plot, you very quickly learn that that there's no way to kind of dress up exposition and make it entertaining. The only way is to have it be. The only way is to make sure that the actual engine underneath the hood, which is the story, is cooking. And if the story is cooking and the audience needs information in order to figure out how this character that we care about is going to get out of this situation that we're concerned that they're in, and that they need to get this thing, and we want them to get this because we care. If all of that stuff is cooking and the audience needs that information to figure out the same way the character needs it, then they'll listen to exposition. But you're never going to make exposition palatable by putting nice music over it, or by, the music is serving the same thing. The music is serving the story. And it's similar with the whodunits. I mean, we actually never think about misdirection at all.
You're never thinking about putting an audience in a certain mindset to almost like, hey, come look over here kind of thing. So you miss this on purpose so it comes back around?
No, well, I mean, the only way in which we do that is, again, through story, because I think that's the only way that it works. You're never trying to lead the audience into a theory or into kind of an idea or like suspecting something different. But what you are trying to get what you are kind of the magician of doing this with one hand while doing the real thing over here. The only misdirection that works is what I described before, is story. Like in the first Knives Out movie, the scene with Ana de Armas and Christopher Plummer where she accidentally gives him the wrong overdose, which if you're just thinking in purely whodunit terms, you might be trying to pull it apart in your head and think, okay, wait a minute, did you pick this up? Where did that come from? Could it have been? And I think the misdirection, quote unquote, in that is not think about this other theory. It's, oh my God, this poor girl, this guy that she loves, she's just thinks she's responsible for his death, and she's having this emotional reaction to it, and he, in his last act, is trying to save her. And that, I mean, I don't know, that I feel like that's kind of the only, and I'd classify the music in that same thing.
Totally.
If, the music has to be emotional and pull you along with the story.
Well, and it's like a really clear North Star to have at every point in the movie. It's just connecting with what those characters are feeling. It's not like, oh, we're going to try to do this real clever thing and like make you look this way, or it's the thing that I really love about these. It's something that Rian talks about a lot, that it shouldn't feel like a crossword puzzle. It should feel like a roller coaster ride. And I think the only way to do that is if everyone is engaged with what the people we care about, what they feel.
What I find really interesting about music are theme callbacks, or how something will come back at the end that's maybe teased in the beginning. I remember Bobby Krilic, the Hacks and Cloak, was in here recently talking about how he put a little bit of like a hint of a theme at the beginning of the movie Him, and then it comes back at the end, and you might not know that it came back, but you feel that it came back. It's like a subconscious thing. When you're playing around in the world of music and in the whodunit genre, how much can those theme callbacks help with the narrative, in the sense of like, will you place little clues with the music early on that when we get the reveal and the big kind of like speech about what's happening, do you have callbacks that are like almost subconsciously hitting us and we feel that, but it might not know it?
Yeah, there are things you can do with that. I mean, for instance, in Glass Onion, there's a scene where Edward Norton's character Miles Braun steals the melodic motif of Janelle's character, but this is like, it works in the moment because because his character essentially steals everything. He's like, that's like the thing about his character is he hasn't had an original thought his entire life. And so it's not just a clever thing, it's that he is putting on an emotion that is fully contained in Janelle's theme. So it really works for him to kind of co-opt her motif at that point, because he's like essentially trying to relate on that emotional level that she's relating with. But again, I feel like things like that, we never want to go down the clever rabbit hole, and it's like, okay, does it work? In this case, it works because it's working emotionally. Same thing about like feeding it. I mean, I kind of think about it like the chorus. You know what I mean? Like by the end of the movie, you wanna be familiar with the chorus, and that's often what it is. We're like leading into some. I don't know. I guess the end of the movie wants to feel like a crescendo, not just musically, but as an experience. And so music is one of the ways we can like bring back a theme that people have been familiar with and have connected in different parts of the story, and hopefully that helps it all land more emotionally.
Out of all the feature films that you've made, the only one that hasn't been scored by Nathan is The Last Jedi with John Williams. And you have a lot of frequent collaborators, Stevie Edlin, who has been your cinematographer from Brick going forward. But that must have been an interesting thing because you had a working relationship already with Nathan, of course, as a family member, but also as a composer on your movies. How different was that experience? Obviously, John Williams is legendary, of course, and obviously has been built into that Star Wars world from the beginning. But was that an interesting thing from you, from a filmmaking perspective, to have a different composer?
Well, yeah, yes, and because it was John Williams, that was the least interesting thing about it. I missed you, dear friend.
Yeah, John Williams was great.
It's not like I was sitting there saying, "Oh," but it was. So I mean, look, it was overwhelming in the most wonderful way getting to work with John. He works in a very specific way that is the opposite of how I work with Nathan. Yeah. Nathan and I are very collaborative from the start, and Nathan and I are talking. Nathan is like one of the first people to read the script, and then, even in the process of doing it, he's kicking stuff at me. I'm saying what I think. We're going back and forth. John, he still composes just with pencil and paper at the piano, and in his house he does it the same way that he's always done it, and then literally the first time I hear a cue is when a 200-piece orchestra is playing it on the stage, the old MGM stage at Sony.
Wow.
And so it's wonderful. It's John Williams. It's Star Wars. It's amazing.
He just adds the sound of our entire childhoods right at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So couldn't be more different in terms of process. And but I mean, I feel so incredibly lucky I got the experience of just, and also getting to know him a little bit as a person. He's such a wonderful, wonderful, sweet, kind man, and the whole thing, it still feels a little bit like a dream. Should I tell the hooks?
Yeah, totally.
Or you can tell it.
Well, so what was really great is, getting to, from my perspective, getting to just be a fly on the wall, being at the sessions, watching everything go down. I mean, it's like watching your hero.
Yeah.
When we were kids making movies with our families, the way we did the soundtracks, we had one CD, one film soundtrack CD. We had John Williams' Hook CD. And that scored all of our childhood movies.
Wow.
And so during this process, Rian, I think, had tracked down like a vinyl copy of Hook from Japan. And he's like, one day he was like, I got you a Christmas present, but I don't think I can wait to give it to you until Christmas.
Yeah.
and he had gotten John to sign it to me and framed it to me. It's amazing. Yeah. So I've got that proudly displayed in my studio.
The guy put you out of work for a year, so he's got a. Yeah.
I mean, we had to give him a chance. I feel like that guy has a future. He's done good. Keep your eye on John Williams. He's gonna blow your mind.
Is it like, it's got to be interesting, like when you get that Star Wars job, like you probably know immediately that John Williams is the composer for it. Do you call Nathan and go, by the way, sorry, this one we can't do together? Or is it just kind of a known thing?
I can't remember.
It's a known thing. I mean, that's like the one movie where the composer is hired before the director. It's like clearly John Williams is doing.
Yeah. If John Williams hadn't approved of me, I wouldn't have got him. Yeah, that's true. It's very true. Rightly so. Yeah.
I mentioned Steve Yedlin, who's been your cinematographer since Brick, and I want to get into the narrative conversations you have with Steve about the way you're going to shoot your films, because every film is shot differently in a way, from anamorphic to spherical lenses. Some are shot on film, some shot digitally, and aspect ratios are fascinating as well, because you look at Brick, which is 1.85. You started off in that 1.85 realm. You've gone to 2.35, 2.39 over the years in different films. Last Jedi was wide as well, and then all three of the Knives Out have been 1.85 and spherical. What is that narrative decision in terms of like spherical lenses versus anamorphic, and why does the Knives Out world lend itself to that taller ratio of 1.85 and the lenses, and like what narratively do you have a conversation with him about?
Well, I mean, I think it's partly just instinctive. I feel like with Knives Out, because we had shot a few movies in a row wide, it felt like could be nice to go back to a more the taller ratio, and then once we did, we said, okay, I guess these movies are 1.85, and in terms of spherical versus anamorphic, I love anamorphic. Steve gets we have lots of arguments about anamorphic. Steve gets very upset by the notion that he argues against the notion that anamorphic has something magical to it or special. Oh. He's like, I can create that warping just with the computer. And I'm like, yeah, I know you can. It's, I mean, to be fair with him, he's right. Anamorphic lenses suck, and technically they are blurry around the edges of them. They are slower than regular lenses, so they're harder to shoot with. The minimum focus isn't as good. There's a lot of disadvantages of shooting with anamorphic. And I'm sure he can put warping and make whatever I want but I just love anamorphic.
Oh, dude, the flares. Like, I mean, you get flares spherical too, but like it's not like, but like Looper is gorgeous. That's anamorphic, right? Yeah,
that's anamorphic. Yeah, Looper and The Last Jedi are the two anamorphic things we've shot, and I just really enjoyed shooting with them. So, but I don't know. I'm not sure because I'm writing something that's not a Benoit Blanc movie right now, and I'm not sure what aspect ratio it'll be in. Huh. It's also, though, it's less of a big deal than you would think. Like, I don't consider it actually like a huge. Rarely is there some like storytelling consideration in terms of wide or not. It's kind of just what we feel like doing at that point.
I remember, I think Spielberg said something about like 1.85 feeling like the truth in a way.
Sure. Spielberg said, I'll agree with that. That's fine. Well, I think I do remember when him talking about, because he shot Jurassic Park 1.85, and he did it because dinosaurs are tall, which I think is the best, the absolute best justification. Yeah. So we'll say we shot Knives Out 1.85 because Michael Shannon's a tall man.
Right. He's a tall man. And he kind of he set the tone for the whole series.
Yeah. But I mean, these frequent collaborators, it's cool to see the continuing work with you and Nathan and Steve. Like, is that by design? Like, early on, did you think to yourself, okay, I'm probably going to stay? Because I mean, like, you see a lot of directors who work with the same actors, over and over again, like Scorsese and DiCaprio or De Niro. But like, to have the same DP, to have the same composer, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I mean, Spielberg obviously has Kaminsky for so many years, and I'm just curious, is that something you modeled that after, of like wanting to stay on with somebody who you've worked with before?
Well, well, I guess, it's a little less kind of,
calculated.
Chicken in it's not calculated at all, really. It's kind of just, I mean, it does go back to just, we learned how to make movies by growing up making them with friends and and with each other, and then we just kept doing it, and the collaboration feels great. The other thing is, like, I kind of, with Steve as well as with Nathan, I feel like I feel like we can genuinely try anything together. It's not like Nathan does a specific type of score and that fits the style of the stuff I do really well. I genuinely feel like we could, and we kind of love at the start of each one saying, okay, what kind of crazy thing would suit this next story best? So
yeah, I mean, it feels, that's kind of the greatest thing about working together is, I mean, we've done now three of the Blanc movies. We don't think of those as sequels, and I can tell you from my perspective, each time we start, it's like, how are we going to do this brand new?
Yeah, it's a new movie.
You know, I mean, there are some Blanc motifs that peek their heads up, but it's like 99% all brand new music each time. And then before that, it's like jumping between genres. I mean, I think that feels like it feels genuinely exciting. It's exciting to get a new Rian script in your inbox any day of the year, but B, it kind of means like, okay, how are we gonna do something? What does this require, and how can we do something that we haven't done before?
You know, we were discussing prior about release structure, and the first Knives Out, obviously, I think it was through the Lionsgate, and that had a theatrical release that went wide. Glass Onion had a very small theatrical release for a week before going to Netflix, and now Wake Up Dead Man will also have a smaller theatrical release going into the Netflix release. But what's interesting about the world we live in now, and as both of you know, we're in this world now where there's so many options, and streaming has obviously become such a massive deal. And I think finding a middle ground with theaters, as we were talking about, is really kind of hopefully an answer we can kind of go towards. But talk about that, like the structure of kind of how all this happened, and like particularly with Glass Onion, you did get into the AMCs and the larger theater chains. That's not happening here with Wake Up Dead Man. But talk about why that was for Glass Onion, why it's not happening here, and kind of like how you think we can find a middle ground where Netflix and movie theaters can work together to give a robust theatrical release for films that are Netflix movies and then go to Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes people might have the perception that it's Netflix saying we don't want our movies in theater and putting some kind of cap on it. And the reality is it's a little more complicated than that. It's all about windows. It's all about, and the window is the time between when it hits theaters and when it's on a streaming service.
Sure.
And the thing that Netflix hasn't budged on that does kind of dictate the amount of theaters it can be in is how long the window is. They haven't given a long window. Like ours is, I think, just about 2 weeks, basically.
For Wake Up Dead Man.
For Wake Up Dead Man. It's Thanksgiving to December 12th.
Okay.
So, and the flip side of that is the theater chains will not release something that doesn't have a very long window between the two of those. And so both sides are kind of dug in against each other at this point. And so, I mean, look, as someone, take me and our movies out of the equation as someone who just wants to see more movies in theaters. I hope that eventually something, both sides will give a little, and this will end up being resolved. But both sides are going to have to give. That's the other equation of it. It's not just Netflix. I think the theater chains are going to have to start becoming more flexible also. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and so that's also, we were able with Glass Onion to kind of make this deal where it was just 1 week in theaters, and we were able to get some of the bigger chains like AMC on board.
And it did well.
It did incredibly well.
Yeah.
It did phenomenally well. And if I may say so.
How did that not carry over here?
It was just, I don't know. Look, it just is the way that this one happened. And the reality is, look, I want these to be seen in as many theaters as possible. I love the folks at Netflix. I've had a great experience with them, and I'm really happy that we've been making these movies with them. I don't want to sound like I'm just like complaining about, and the other reality is, I mean, like, Yeah, I don't know. Netflix is the global reach of Netflix is just phenomenal in a way that is kind of mind-boggling in terms of the amount of people that will see the movie and the amount of people that will impact. Do I want more theaters? Absolutely, I 100% do. I also absolutely can't deny first that Netflix have been terrific partners from the top to the bottom of their organization. They're phenomenal. They're the best. And also that these movies have had more cultural impact from being on Netflix than they arguably could have, even if they had like, just a full theatrical run elsewhere. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, so it's a lot of things that are true. It's not just kind of like a simple thing.
I actually think you come off beautifully in what you just said, because you're finding a middle ground as to like where it's no one's particular fault. It's just we're also in an ever-changing industry. Like
Everything's changing so fast,
right.
And and both sides are hanging on to their model, and they're just. I think for the sake of people who love seeing stuff in theaters, I just hope it. On both sides, I hope it kind of gives, Yeah.
And to give Netflix credit, I mean, I just went and saw Frankenstein in 35 millimeter at the Egyptian. You are striking film prints, which is really cool. You are going to get a theatrical run. So for people out there listening to this, you do have 2 weeks to see Wake Up Dead Man before it hits Netflix.
Go to the landmark theaters, go to the Alamos, go to the independent chains, go see it. And also, and also everyone should be, if they want to see more of these in theaters, let Netflix know, let the theater chains know, let them know that you as consumers will turn out for this.
What does it still mean to be able to strike those prints though? Because like, and it's interesting because you shot on film for a lot of your career. Brick, Brothers Bloom, Looper, Last Jedi was shot film, but I think the Three Knives Outs have been shot digitally. But you're still striking film prints, which is really cool to hear. What does that still mean to kind of strike a print from this, and you keep these prints, which is really cool. And, but like striking a print from a digital has got to be an interesting thing as well. Like, does that 35 millimeter print sing differently to you than the digital version?
Well, we just reviewed the 35 print. I do love the look of it. And it's a romantic, wonderful thing. Is it, I don't know. Is it, I mean, I feel like I'm not the film purist that some directors are, and that's because of working with Steve. He's kind of, he's kind of, I've lost that as a religion a little bit just from working with him and realizing the visual storytelling element. I don't know. Shooting on digital, you have so much control over it. You can make it look however you want. I would personally, I mean, look, I'm sure some people would disagree. I think our Knives Out movies look more like film than some movies that are shot on film.
100%.
And so I have never felt kind of restricted in terms of getting that filmic look that I want. And in fact, Steve very often says it's easier for him to make digital look like film than to make film look like film. The reason for that is film is still digital because you're shooting a negative, you're then scanning it. You are, with a few exceptions, like I think Nolan does like a photo but Nolan's movies still have a lot of effects in them, which means they're being pulled into a computer, they're being degrained, they're having the effects done to them, they're being digitally regrained, and then they're being put out to negative, and then he does the color timing. So there's still a digital step with them. Although maybe I'll get a call from Chris and he'll tell me how he's doing the effects optically, in which case, God.
Emma Thomas just texted me. I don't know.
But his movies look absolutely incredible, and I think that he does have that fidelity of he loves doing the, and the movies and that makes it so much fun to see also, because it's this thing that nobody else is doing. It's gorgeous. I'm not against it at all. It's but I don't know. What's Steve's point being that because you essentially have to take the film, take it through a digital step, and then for a lot of technical reasons then you have to print it back out to film. It's it's almost closer to the process of just the printing process of just going digital to digital.
I mean, I'll say this, and I'm somebody who loves film, watching movies on film projection. I got out of Sicario and I was like, that's 100% shot on 35.
Yeah.
And Deacon shot digitally on that. And like if you're an amazing DP like Steve is, you can get that look. I mean, Edgar just shot Running Man on digital. I mean, like we can live in a world where both exist, and it doesn't mean that like you're if you're shooting digitally that you don't like film anymore. I mean, like there's just certain. It just speaks to the story sometimes.
Yeah, and also I'll say I think the best looking movie of the year, One Battle After Another, was shot on not just film but this crazy format. It's like you can shit on whatever the fuck you want, and if it's good, it's going to be good. And I think there is something really fun about shooting on the notion something was shot on film.
Yes.
I went to see the VistaVision print of One Battle because I wanted to see what it looked like. And also at this point, anything that gets people excited about going to the movie theater, I'm all for. So I'm not arguing against film at all, and I'm excited that people are still into it and shooting it. Yeah,
the VistaVision thing, because I think Yorgos just shot VistaVision for Begonia as well, or partially for it.
Oh, did they?
I think, I've seen some of this. Yeah, because like it's so cool. I mean, for people listening who don't know what VistaVision is, I mean, look it up because the 35 stock is running through the camera horizontally, exposing 8 perforations of film real estate versus 4. And it's like this. I mean, you go back and watch Vertigo, North by Northwest, Searchers, 10 Commandments. I mean, these are like they look epic because they were shot epically in that way. Back to score, because I find this interesting. With the actor who, like, you have such a brilliant cast for all 3 of the Knives Out. I want to shout out Josh O'Connor, who I think is one of the best actors working today.
He's amazing.
There's something he does with his smile. Yeah. Even in your film and also in Challengers, he gets an arc across in a smile. I don't know how he does it. It's like this like side smirk thing he does, but it's just, I mean, I'm sure it's subconscious, but it's brilliant. As a composer, how much of the writing of the music comes based on the actor and then the character? So Josh is himself and he's playing a character, but Josh has mannerisms, he has physicality, he moves a certain way, then a character moves a certain way, but it's still partially Josh. So I'm curious like how much the actor plays into the theme 100%. Of the character.
I think Josh has done a really special thing with this movie.
He's brilliant.
He has captured a humble generosity that I think is really lacking in our world everywhere we look right now. It's like when I watch his performance, it's something that I want more of.
It's comforting.
It's comforting.
Yes.
It's comforting, and it's, you know, there's there's one of my favorite little moments in the movie is when Andrew Scott is kind of giving an argument. He's like, the church needs someone to stand up. We don't need another pussy right now. And it's like he's kind of like inverting the whole message of what we would maybe understand faith to really be about. And I think what Josh presents in this is, that thing where people might think, oh, generosity, humility, that can be looked at as weakness. I think he does this really amazing job at capturing like why that is strength and why that is welcoming. And so when I saw the first cut of the movie, Ryan brought me in to see like essentially the assembly edit. It's 3 hours long, no music. And at the end of the movie, I was crying, and that's the first time this has happened with a Ryan movie. To answer your question, and I know this is a rambling thing, but it's also like really kind of an emotional thing that I'm grasping for. But essentially, I knew that I needed to protect that moment for me when I. Obviously, I like cried with no music, so I better not fuck it up. But but that moment was so important, and so when we were at Abbey Road together, it's like this very sensitive moment, and Ryan and I were hovering over the desk, and we're like, let's go again, let's just be a little bit quiet, and we really, I think we kind of spent half an hour, maybe 6 or 7 takes to really dial that moment in, and part of that is because it's a dance with the actors. It's the script starts here, and it's like I said before, when I get a script from Ryan, it feels like Christmas morning, but then the actors get it up on their feet, and this is another thing I love about Rian. He's not like, you will say the words I wrote. He knows where the story's going, but with every department, with all the actors, it is a real collaboration. So there is room for a magic to happen. And in that end moment, at the very end of the recording sessions, we were there dialing that in precisely so that the dance works with what the actors are doing on screen.
It's so brilliant. I mean, the performances are amazing. And one of the things I found myself doing in this film in particular, also a lot of the Knives Out films, is I'm always scouring the frame. And I'm trying to pay attention to what every character is doing, even if we're not focused on that character. Like if they're sitting around and talking, what's that character doing, even if we're not listening to that person speak? And I remember that really kind of engaged me when I saw Tarantino's Hateful Eight, because you're shooting an Ultra Panavision 70, you have Robert Richardson, and you have this entire room. It's simple, but I'm looking around. What's Michael Madsen doing over there while Tim Roth's over here? And I'm curious as a filmmaker how much you want us to collaborate as editors in a way where if you're focusing on a scene with Josh O'Connor, but then, Kerry Washington's doing something different in the background, or Glenn Close or whatever, are you thinking about us looking around the frame as clues as to what they're doing and how their mannerisms are working? Is it that precise?
Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, I think that we're mainly focused on what is the main story of the scene. And but then there's always, in these movies, there is kind of by their nature all that background stuff.
Yeah.
And I would be pretending to be much smarter than I actually am if I said I was like Svengali orchestrating all of that in order to specifically...
Like Andrew's doing something with his leg. That means he's doing this, or No,
but the reality is like we said before, the audience, I'm never going to be able to mislead the audience as well as the audience will be able to mislead themselves. They're much smarter than... The audience is smarter than us.
But you trust the audience. That's why you're a good writer. Because sometimes filmmakers don't trust the audience and they give them too much. Like you've always been I always felt like I'm working with you.
That's good.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that starts with knowing it's impossible to fool the audience. I think. And so you don't try to fool the audience. You try and entertain them. That's the only way of, like we said, quote unquote, misdirecting from so that you get a surprise or you get a twist or whatever, is to pull them along and entertain them. And entertainment is, like you said, it's a process of collaboration with them.
Yeah.
It's not trying to kind of pull the wool over their eyes or fool or surprise them. It's going on a journey with them and getting swept up on it, and then they're along on the ride with you.
One of the fun things about the Knives Out films in particular, but obviously your filmography, is Noah, and every time he has a cameo, it's always fun to see. And I always imagine you writing your script and going, all right, this is going to be Noah's moment, or how we're going to add him in. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's in the first Knives Out on the TV. He's in the second Knives Out as like is it the Dong?
The
Hourly Dong.
The Hourly Dong.
Yeah.
Is he in this one?
He is. He's the baseball announcer on the TV.
What? Is he visually there?
No, just the voice. He's doing the commentary. Yeah, which is really fun.
Because
the
Glass Onion one came out when you were doing Poker Face, right?
Yeah.
So how did this one come about?
This one he just did it on his phone and sent it to me. I got to write. I'm a big baseball fan, and I just got to write kind of like commentary. And also,
that's cool.
The movie takes place in 2025, and so we found a Cubs game that happened at the right time on Good Friday 2025 and put it in the TV, so it actually makes sense. And so he was calling that game and referring to the game that had happened a week ago. It was really fun.
Okay, that's absolutely insane. And then what's the Noah process every time? Is it change? Like, are you already thinking about where you're going to put him, or is it just, does it come out? Are you listening to your script and like, oh, this is the right time?
No, I'm usually thinking, this will be a good Noah.
Okay. One thing I find really interesting about filmmaking that not a lot of people talk about is filmmakers listening to their movies, meaning letting the movie speak to you and because you obviously have an idea of what you want to do with the movie, but sometimes your movie will speak to you. And I think I always think of Jaws, obviously, and like that shark breaking down, and the movie speaking to Steven Spielberg, basically like, let's get less shark, and we'll make it scarier. Necessity is the mother of invention, kind of what we were talking about earlier. How much is listening to your movie important to you, and like what's something that your movie has spoken back to you before? Like maybe, I'm not trying to sound like spiritually, but like like, have you ever had your movie speak back to you or argue with you in a way, and you kind of like have a tug of war with it a bit?
I would argue that's the only thing that happens, and that happens at all phases. It starts with the writing. I mean, you start with kind of your plans and your clever ideas for what it's going to be, but when it starts going, and every writer knows this, at some point, it's we say it's not construction, it's excavation. It's you're uncovering dinosaur bones and discovering what the thing is as you do it.
Is your twist first?
No.
Oh, that comes out in the writing?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I don't know. It depends what you mean by twist.
Like, I mean, the reveal of the generally who done it, like that, the general.
No, you gotta start with story. You have to start with, and the story isn't not necessarily plot, and it's not necessarily who done it. Like, for example, with Wake Up Dead Man, I won't spoil anything, but the story is Judd's arc. It's where he starts, and then where he gets to at the end of it, and starting with the conflict with Wicks, and then with Josh Brolin's character, and then handing that off into a conflict that turns into a collaboration with Blanc. But it's his whole kind of arc throughout it, and that's kind of where you have to start with. Yeah.
Just a question I want to bring back from earlier about Steve. There's a way you shoot Brolin in this film up, and it's like it just gives him this so much power and authority. And a shot like that is fascinating to me because we feel that authority through the shot. I'm sure you've read Sidney Lumet's Making Movies book, right? Yeah. It's one of the greatest books of all time, and I learned so much about that especially through the 12 Angry Men thing, where he talked about how he would shoot like the camera above eye level at the beginning of the movie, and it would slowly become below eye level, and the lenses would change to make you feel more claustrophobic. And I'm just curious if you and Steve, are those discussions that you have about those subconscious feelings, like when you're shooting up at Brolin as he's giving a speech, there's an authority aspect to it. We feel that weight, and I'm just curious, like how often those discussions are happened, that the things we feel subconsciously might not necessarily consciously as an audience member.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's a few different levels to it. There's the instinctual level where when I storyboard the movie, I do that during prep, and I do that just on my own, so I can have a step that's outside of kind of the workman like day on set with all its pressure, so I can have a little space to kind of visually write the movie for myself. And while you're doing that, it's a bit like writing, where the instinctual thing of things that you're describing, where making him feel powerful in the frame. But then that extends to on set too, and we're lensing the shot up, and it's the emotional content of it, you're trying to capture it and what's going to feel good, and you find yourself just kind of, I find myself slowly sinking down with the lens.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's you sometimes you plot it out, and sometimes you feel it out, but it's all about just with every single shot, what's going to give the emotional impression to the audience they need for that scene.
Yeah. I'm getting chills thinking about this, but the way the light goes through the church in this film.
Oh, yeah.
And I would argue the light itself almost has an arc.
Yeah.
Like, I was wondering if you could speak to those, because there's I don't want to give anything away, but there's these brilliant shots while we're in the church and as the lighting changes within the scene as the sun is coming through. So freaking powerful and so immersive and so interesting. And I was wondering if you could speak to the idea of that light. Is it natural sunlight? Are you actually lighting it from outside to get the timing of it? Because those, I don't know why, but I remember leaving the theaters going, that was some of the coolest lighting, because it was emotional. It had a narrative thing to it that I don't really know how to explain, but I felt it. You know what I mean?
Oh man. Well, it was all fake.
Really?
Yeah. So the interior of the church is a set. So the interior of the church is built on a stage. It's a set. And one of the first conversations I had with Steve was about this notion of getting very theatrical with the lighting shifts.
Yes.
And feeling like the outside world is present inside the church. And where we grew up in Colorado, the clouds move very fast, and you get a lot of, you don't get it so much here in Southern California, but you get a lot of every 2 minutes, like the sun going away, or kind of when you're inside a space, suddenly everything gets dark and cold, and then everything is warm and bright.
It's like that shot in Crawl Space in Breaking Bad when I think Brian has the the thing over his head and the sun goes in and out of the clouds in like one shot. It's nuts.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't see it very often in movies because, continuity.
Because it's hard.
It's hard. So Steve did a ton of prep work in order to pre-rig the lighting and get a light control system so that when we were on set, we could basically, from his laptop, like play those light cues like music.
Wow.
And repeat them. And so that was all planned. It was all deliberate. It was all created by Steve. Yeah.
In terms of score, obviously, I'm curious though for you emotionally though when you finally see the finished film locked.
Yeah.
And all the work you've both put into it. Is there a certain, like, how do you feel about seeing your music set to image in the sense of, like, what does that, and I know you talked about it a little bit earlier with Josh O'Connor, but, like, what is that for you, that revelation that comes about when you finally sit down and watch that final cut?
It's a really good question. I also kind of don't know how to answer it because honestly, at that point, I'm experiencing it, if we've done everything right, I'm experiencing it just as a movie.
Wow.
I'm not. This is also the other thing. Like when I start early on, I'm not thinking, what kind of music am I going to do? I'm just experiencing. The first time I read the script, I'm reading it as a story. That's what I care about. I'm a fan of movies, and there will be plenty of time to go granular. And then when we're making it, we're thinking about that. But at the point when we watch it, we like really messed up if I'm like not just experiencing it as a movie. I mean, that also may be part of it. We've just spent like months, recording and then weeks in the final dub. So we've had a lot of times where our brains are very active and we're thinking granularly about it. But yeah, it's at that point it's really like experiencing it with an audience, and I'm on the edge of my seat with them. I'm like noticing where they're laughing. It's really a whole thing, I think.
How much do you write or think about in between the Knives Out films what Benoit has been doing and I know that like sometimes you'll hear him say something, he'll refer to maybe some place that he's been, but I find that fascinating because every time he shows up I'm like, where's he coming from? Where's he been? What's he been doing between the films? How long has it been between the films? Like, do the characters in Knives Out 1 know that he's continued on to do more? Because obviously it's all within the same world in that way, but yet they're very different films, as you were saying. Like, do you think about because that consistency of where he goes in between these movies?
A little bit, but not really.
Interesting.
Because I like the disconnect, and because I also I'm very wary of making the mistake of thinking that Benoit Blanc, outside of his function as a detective, is what's interesting about these movies.
Yeah,
like, I think that
we kind of get a glimpse of that in Glass Onion, though.
Yeah,
when we go to his apartment.
Yeah, we get a fun little glimpse of his home life, and so that's fun. But to me, I always want these movies to be, I don't know, they're murder mysteries, and Blanc's character is revealed through him, like any character is, through them kind of through action, and his action is trying to solve the murder mystery. And so but that involves him having a relationship with the protagonist in the movie, and that's really where a lot of his character ends up getting revealed. So there's a lot of layers to that beyond just plot and solving things. But I don't know, but I'm never tempted to build out kind of, the bigger universe or the bigger his backstory or something like that, or even fill out too much in between the movies. It's fun to get like a little one sentence throwaway line about the case that he solved at the Kentucky Derby with the photo finish camera, and then quickly move on. It's just like, wait, what was that? I think that's the perfect amount of tantalizing, Blanc outside of.
That's great.
Also, I can tell you as an observer of how brutal Ryan is when he's editing, that stuff would all be the first to disappear.
Like
if we shot
out.
a flashback, it would not last past the assembly.
Because the movies are so lean. There's no fat whatsoever. Actors' physicality is fascinating to me, though, the decisions that they make to become that person. And I remember Denzel Washington talked about putting on a character's shoes and he found the character. And I remember, for some weird reason, I was watching Strangers on a Train recently, And those characters are introduced by their shoes,
by
the way they walk. You already know who those people are based on the way they walk.
That movie and what you're describing is the reason there are so many shoe shots in Brick, my first movie, because I became obsessed with the notion of shoes.
And Joe really found his character through those shoes.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Strange on a Train is one of my favorite movies, and that opening thing where their toes tap at the end of that great walking in different. Yeah, it's amazing.
You already know the character.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. So that was my question for you. Like when you first wrote the first Knives Out and you first started seeing Daniel becoming Benoit Blanc, were there little things that you started to attach to that you noticed were making him become him? Was it shoes? Was it clothes? Was it mannerisms? What conversations did you have about the way he moves? Because the way he moves is so. It's only him. He moves a certain way through a scene.
Yeah.
And so, like, speaking on the Stranger on a Train thing and, like, the physicality and how those aspects can teach us so much.
Yeah.
What was that like for you to see him revealed?
Well, for me, it was wonderful to watch. I can't, it's not like, as a director, you're stepping in and micromanaging those things generally. I mean, he's inhabiting the character, he's making it, all those little things are going into it. And for me, I just kind of get to watch it. Watch it grow and watch it kind of blossom. And beyond things that are very specific in terms of dramatic moments, I'm generally not getting in there and talking to him about body language or anything like that. He's Daniel Craig. He's like, and he's the one who's living this character. And a lot of Blanc is exactly what you're describing. It's this delicate matrix of just who Daniel is when he's inhabiting that character. And that's not something I try and pull the strings on or futz with.
But you get to watch it happen.
I get to watch it happen. I have the best seat in the house for it. So yeah, that's one of the treats of being a director. Just getting to watch actors do their thing.
And it's beautiful because like a lot of the way you direct scenes and the way dialogue is written, I find myself trying to look for things around the frame, as I mentioned. But even the way the murder or whatever, I don't want to give anything away, way it happens in this film, I would find myself trying to get around to see it. Like, let me get behind that door. What's going on there? And like that's what's the famous story about Rosemary's Baby or something?
Yep. That there was a moment in Rosemary's Baby where he shot, I forget what the exact thing was, but he shot it so that somebody is blocking some hallway. And when they were watching it in the theater, he nudges, because the moment was coming up. He nudged, I forget who it was, like Mia Farrow or somebody, and said, "Watch." And when the moment happened, the entire audience went,
"Yes!"
Which is the best. Yeah.
It's one of the coolest tricks ever. All right, I'm gonna get you guys out of here in a couple rapid fire questions. Movie you wish you could rewatch again for the first time, meaning that, like, I understand the memory you might have of a film is important and kind of how you saw it and who you saw it with.
Yeah.
But if you could erase like The Sixth Sense, you don't know Bruce Willis is dead, and rewatch.
Spoiler.
Yeah, and rewatch a film for the first time, what would it be? I think a Matrix comes to a lot of people's minds for this question, but I'm curious where you guys go.
That's interesting. What do you think? Don't think too hard.
I think. I think maybe Holy Motors.
Oh,
why? Why Holy Motors?
Yeah.
Holy Motors has one of my favorite musical scenes in it. It's the interlude where it's like the accordion prancing around, and it's I love musical moments like that where you're just sort of like, what's going on? Just
to relive that.
And because it's like it's a thrill because you don't expect it and it takes you so by surprise.
What about for you?
I would, what's coming to mind is I would say Inglourious Bastards. So
the opening of that, just to see that again for the first time.
The opening, but the moment I was thinking is when they do. And here I am not wanting to spoil Inglourious Bastards.
It's 2009. We're okay.
It's all right. Okay. So I will never forget in the theater because every single World War. As someone who's watched a lot of World War II movies, every single World War II movie that involves Hitler, we all know the end of the story,
right.
and the pure elation of oh, that's right, we're in a movie. We can do whatever the fuck we want. When Hitler gets killed and they blow up the theater.
Eli Roth's face in slow motion with the machine gun.
I remember in that moment, because of the whole dread build up to it of just we're in a World War II movie, it's Hitler. This is not going to work. This is not going to work. I remember feeling like I was floating out of my seat. And I remembered the pure elation of, oh, that's right, movies can do anything, and just for this moment, we get this. Was just one of the most purely joyous moments I've ever had in a movie theater.
Well, thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. Yeah. Favorite shot of all time in a movie, and this could change today, tomorrow. What comes to mind when you think of a singular shot in cinema?
No, boy, I don't know. What about you?
I mean, I'll go deep back into childhood, but when Indy jumps the chasm at the beginning of Raiders, like the feeling of
I mean, it's just like one of those shots that you'll never forget.
Totally. Yeah.
I feel like it's easy to say the dolly zoom in Jaws, but I always think of that. Or like, but what about for you?
Well, it's hard because I'm thinking of like the very last shot of E.T., which is Henry Thomas with the wind blowing on him and the stare he gives, which is a medium close-up. That's the thing. I think it's hard to say because
it's emotional.
When you think about your favorite shot, you're talking about the effect of the moment and when the shot was happening, or are you talking about when the camera did something? Are you talking about the opening of Touch of Evil or what have you? Which is incredible. Also, it's like so. I don't know. It's tough. Is it like the shot you think is coolest? Is it there's but I don't know. There's plenty of them. Yeah.
I mean, for a shot like that, you go. I go back to Raising Arizona when he's stealing the babies. It's like that. Yeah, it's just like there's so many fun things like that. But isn't it interesting? Like you ask, what's your favorite shot? We're not thinking technicality. We're thinking emotion. Yeah.
I lied. I'm going to ask you two more quick questions before you go.
Yeah.
The first one is this: Glenn Close is remarkable in this film. The cast you have for all of these are incredible. Kerry Washington, everybody, Jamie Lee Curtis and Knives Out, everybody has been so wonderful. But Glenn Close, this is one of the best performances of her career.
She's amazing.
And she is can you just speak a little bit about your process of writing and directing her, Glenn? Because she's just remarkable.
I mean, working with Glenn has been like a bucket list thing for me. And the experience of working with her was so joyous. And I mean, the thing is, I mean, I don't know. I feel like because these movies are big entertainments, I hope people really see what Glenn is doing here. It's a character that starts very broad, and by the end of the movie, on such a delicate level, the entire movie depends on the emotional landing of some things by her. And I think it's an extraordinary performance. Also, just Glenn. I mean, every single day on the set, she showed up with the energy of a kid who had just gotten their first job on a movie set. She loves making movies. She's endlessly excited and full of life and passion about the process in a way that was inspiring for me and for I think a lot of the younger actors on set also. It's she takes so much active joy in doing the work of acting and creating. She loves her fellow actors. It was just inspiring on every level for me working with her. And I really did she was shooting that Ryan Murphy show in L.A. right after the movie. So when I was in post in L.A., she was here shooting. So we got to go to dinners and we got to actually kind of become friends after. And so she's, I don't know, I feel really, really lucky. Yeah.
Well, here's the last question. You guys have seen the movie Babylon, right? The Damien Chazelle.
Saw it when it came out, yeah.
Do you remember the scene? And I always end on this because I always think about filmmaking and how you're basically immortalized in cinema in a way once we're gone, like the work you've put out into the world. And there's that scene in Babylon where Brad Pitt's character is struggling with the idea of going from the silent era to the talkies. And Jean Smart has this brilliant dialogue where she basically says to him, in 100 years, someone's going to turn back on your movie and you're going to flicker back to life. And I find that interesting because the work you both do will live past you. It will live on. Not to be dark, but once we're dead and gone, that work will come back on in somebody's house or somebody's movie theater. Or someone's going to put on one of your films and listen to your music. What does that mean to you, the idea of what you do is immortalized in cinema in a way and will live beyond you? And do you think about the story that your filmography is told that you are leaving behind in that way? And I know you have so many more years to go and so many more films to make, but I think it's interesting to think that you kind of live beyond yourself in the world of movies.
That's really beautifully put, and I'm definitely not. I don't have a big enough consciousness to hold any of that in my head.
But like some kid turning on a movie reviewers 100 years
That's absolutely wonderful, man. I mean, I think that the thing is conceptually that's amazing. It also is I don't know. I think that you can also I do actually think that not just that it's hard to even think in those terms, but I think when you're actually making stuff, it might be very unhealthy to think in those terms, because if you start thinking about legacy, if you start thinking about people 100 years from now, anything that takes it away from what actually makes the work good, which is capturing the moment that's right in front of your eyes and trying to harness the experience you're having on set that day and trying to tell the story that's vital to you right now in this moment. Anything that's theoretical or, God forbid, self-inflating in a way, thinking about like legacy or something like that, I think can only fuck that up. And so I don't know, but maybe not. I generally, though, I don't do it because I'm probably a fundamentally selfish person, and I make these things in order to have these kind of flaring fires of experiences in my life, and it's addictive, which is why I feel very lucky I get to keep making them, because then that fire goes out and then you get on to the next one and lighting something new. And so if someone puts on one of these movies 100 years from now and has a great experience, then that's their moment in that day, and that's for them. That's wonderful. But for me, I'm making it, because I'm making it because we're alive right now.
Well, I'll add this. I mean, again, I'm not thinking down the road like that. I will say, I feel really, really happy that, I mean, we're spending our whole lives doing this, and on each project, it's a 2 or 3 year thing. These are fun and entertaining movies. I'm very happy that they are also really about something. Each one, and that comes from the combination of who Rian is. I like it that because none of them are sermons, and we didn't even touch on this, but both of us grew up in sort of that church background,
which is where this story
but none of these movies are sermons. They're entertainments, but they really are about something, and I feel really happy and honored that we get to be making things that are hopefully not just fun, but also that we care about and that are exploring things that are important to us.
Well, thank you both for being here. Thank you for the art that you've given into the world. And I truly just admire both of you as artists. And it's been so cool to have both of you talking about your craft. And you're both brilliant at what you do. And I really mean that. I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here. And the movie's incredible. Definitely seek it out in theaters, as Rian was saying, if you can, for that 2-week period. And then it'll hit on Netflix. And we're really excited for everybody to see this, and thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thanks for having us in your living room.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Also, what happened on July 3rd, 1991?
Okay, so I've been collecting movie tickets since I was a kid. And so for the show logo, I wanted to create like a fake ticket. That date is the day Terminator 2 opened.
Oh, that's me too.
Which is the movie that changed my life.
I was in the theater that day too then.
Wait, are you serious? You saw T2 in the opening?
Of course I did. Are you kidding me? I was a junior in high school, man.
I would kill to go back to experience that in like James Cameron is responsible for the reason why I'm sitting here doing this show today. So
I saw it probably in Laguna Niguel, actually. I bet that we probably went to see it in one of the Edwards theaters, kind of in Laguna, I bet. I mean,
Brad Feidel's score. I can never
Come on.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so good.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.